Once again, my name is Ross Johnston. I'm coming to you live from Mote Marine Laboratory down in Sarasota, Florida, and I am so excited to be connecting with all of you from all around the United States. Now, what we're going to be doing today, we have a very special lineup. We are joined by three amazing African-American innovators that are connecting STEM education from under the sea all the way to outer space. So I am thrilled to be introducing you to some aquanauts and astronauts today to celebrate Black History Month. So first off, I want to introduce the amazing marine biologist that is joining me here today in the studio. This is Amanda Hodo. So she is an aquarium biologist here in our aquarium at Mote Marine Laboratory. And we are joined by two amazing aerospace educators from the Intrepid Air and Space Museum all the way up in New York, New York. So even though they are 2,000 miles away, it's the joys of virtual learning. So I am super thrilled to introduce Franz Lucien, who is the Manager of Family Engagement and Visual Engagement, as well as Shay Salim, who is the Manager of Teen Leadership Programs at the Intrepid Air and Space Museum. So say hello, everyone.
Hi, guys. How's everyone?
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Great to see you guys. Great to have this opportunity to talk with you all.
Fantastic. And we are so thrilled to be able to connect underwater experts to aerospace experts, which is the perfect transition to our first panel question. So can you just tell us a little bit more about your amazing jobs? What does an average day look like for an aerospace educator versus an underwater educator? So assuming there even is an average day. So we'll start it off with Amanda right here, and then we can jump up to New York with you two.
All right. Well, I'm an aquarium biologist 3. And I work in animal husbandry. So I'm responsible for the short and the long-term care of various fish and invertebrates here at Mote. And honestly, that takes up most of my time because they can be quite needy. But I also have the privilege of being part of our dive team here. And I get to dive in our shark exhibit and do some regular maintenance in there. I help with some shark training sessions. And then I also spend a lot of time taking care of Mote's larval fish.
Wow, so awesome. A super casual day. Yeah, absolutely. Just diving with sharks. It's fine. Yeah, same all the time. All right, so hard to beat that. So we've gotten the wet side out of the way. Now let's go into the outer space side. So we'll start with Shay. So what do you do up at the Aerospace Museum?
Sure. So here at the Intrepid Sea Air and Space Museum, I'm the manager of teen leadership programs, and I work with various youth and teens as well as their families to provide them with really awesome STEM-based programs and events. My background is in geology, environmental science, as well as marine science. So I did my graduate degree down in Sarasota, Florida. So I miss you guys. I miss the weather, Sarasota. It's an awesome place. But yeah, I like what I really wanted to do was to bring marine science up to New York City and to show how awesome and integrated marine science can even be here at the Intrepid Museum for all audiences.
That's amazing. Well, thanks for connecting Florida to New York. So that's really wonderful. Now, speaking of connecting Florida to New York, all right, Franz, I know you do a lot of virtual learning, digital learning in your daily basis. So you're kind of like my job up there. What do you get to do to your audiences?
Yeah, so I mean, here at the museum specifically, what I'm in charge of is engagement of all audiences. So when they come here, to engage them via public demonstrations or any other facet here at the museum, my job is just to engage everyone as soon as they come in. But one of the things that I normally do on a day-to-day basis is virtual field trips. And that is basically taking this museum across the world to different places, places that we've been to are places in Greece, we've been to Mexico, Argentina, Romania, lots of different places where we take these science concepts, specifically space science concepts, and we kind of connected to what they're learning in school and engage them by showing them different artifacts that were from the space race age and connected to what they're learning in science and also in history. So that's what I do more so on a day-to-day basis. I'm walking around with this headset and an iPad in front of my face.
That is so cool. So you are providing live behind the scenes tours to people who would never even get to see the museum in the first place. Wow.
Yeah, that's what we're all about, is connecting those, breaking those barriers and connecting cultures via that.
Well, that's perfect. Actually, what a wonderful transition to our next question. So speaking of breaking those barriers, so I would love to hear a little bit more about how you all got into these STEM careers. So whether it's marine biology, I know that Shay is a geomorphologist because, you know, that's a great title. And then additionally that Franz has a lot of communications background. So you're all coming from very different STEMmy fields, but you're all rallying, you're all mobilizing around education, outreach, and science. So can you tell us a little bit more about where you came from and how you got to where you are now?
Sure.
Let's start with Amanda.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm originally from Chicago, and I grew up going to the Shed Aquarium a lot when I was younger. I did a lot of programs with them in high school, and I knew that I wanted to do something STEM related, but it wasn't until I did those programs that I really gravitated towards marine science. So what made things more clear to me that I wanted to work at an aquarium and work in aquarium sciences was through internships. So I did an internship with Mote right after I graduated college, which I attended in Grinnell, Iowa. Go Grinnell College.
Oh,
and
nice.
I
know someone who went there.
Oh, really? Because that doesn't happen very often. It's pretty small. So I graduated with a biology degree, and I did my internship with Mote, and shortly after I did an internship with the Shed Aquarium, and then that helped me get my foot in the door, and I started a paid position with Mote shortly after. So.
Wow, living the dream that you went from an internship and got hired on. That's fantastic. So I guess that's kind of your turning point, that you went from an internship to a staff member.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as turning points for our folks up in New York, all right, Franz, you're connecting to individuals all around the world. How did you even get into essentially international education?
So to make this an extremely long story short, when I was younger, I actually wanted to be in the STEM field. I was really into space science, marine science, all different types of sciences. But working in college, my graduate assistantship in college was at a museum, and I did some work previously as a park ranger, kind of like in a museum setting. I realized that I can put both of those two together because I got my both my degrees in communication. And I realized not only do I like science, I like talking about science specifically, and I'm pretty good at talking. I talk a lot. So by putting all of that stuff together, we can actually create this program where we take virtual field trips all around the world. By connecting these cultures via communication, the communication of just using an iPad, using Skype, using Zoom, anything, using that to connect them to here, which connects them to scientific properties, principles. So that actually is what got me into it. It's just my love of science and then my love for communication.
Amazing. Well, that's the dream job, right? You're getting paid to tell people about where you
I get
actually
paid to
work.
Talk.
Exactly, getting paid 100%, right. You're getting paid to not stop talking.
Right, exactly.
All right, fantastic. Well, at that point, I'm going to ask you to stop talking. So then Shay can then answer my questions.
Yeah, sure. So I'm from Queens, New York, Far Rockaway to be exact, which is right near the beach, right at the beach exactly. So as a sibling with 3 siblings and a mom who was like trying to figure out what to do with all 4 of us, she would throw us out at the beach all the time. And that's actually where I had all these questions about the ocean. Why does it move this way? What are the properties of the sand? What are these black specks? And she couldn't answer it. So at the time, you know, PBS and Channel 13 was the crux of educational TV. So I was watching all the Nova shows about marine science and about whales and dolphins. I was like, that is so fascinating. So I was always interested in the sciences, but I also had other interests like singing and dancing and fashion design. But what marine science really got a hold of me was when I did my senior internship as a senior at Townsend Harris High School. I interned at the Brooklyn Aquarium. And that's actually where I started to get the bug of marine science and what it's all about, and understanding animal husbandry and aquatics and learning how to find my voice. That was a big thing. I was super shy as a child. I did not want to talk to anyone who I did not know. I was terrified to do any kind of public presentations. But the internship at the Brooklyn Aquarium really brought out those skills in me in terms of educating the public, learning more about marine science content. So then I wasn't afraid to really think about, when I went to undergrad, to really think about the connection of geology and marine science. And one of my professors actually helped me make the connection that there is a degree you can get in geology and marine science at the same time called geomorphology or plate tectonics or geotectonics. And I was like, wow, that is amazing. So there were people along the way during my undergraduate degree that put me into the positions that I can take advantage of applying towards graduate programs. And then going to the University of South Florida's College of Marine Science program, that's where everything blossomed. I learned more and more about marine science. I learned that girls in STEM is something that is needed and needs to be supported and addressed. So I was a mentor at the oceanography camp for girls, really helping to get girls interested in marine sciences. And I brought all of this stuff back to me to New York City, where I became employed right after graduate school here at the Intrepid Sea and Space Museum. So this is my first job, really doing what I love, which is really inspiring teens, families, and communities into STEM and opening opportunities for them to explore, discover, and be inspired.
That is so inspirational. Oh my gosh, I love to hear. That's beautiful. Oh my goodness, that you went from someone shy and now you're leading teen leadership. So you are single-handedly changing the lives of future STEM experts. That's fantastic. Now, for anyone who's just joining us, if you have any questions, please feel free to type into the chat box. We'd also love to hear where you're connecting from, where your city, state, the class size, how many students are participating, where you're coming from. This really helps us provide more continuation and resources for future webinars. So thank you for everyone who is just now joining in. Now, Shay, that was such an inspirational transition. I'm going to jump it right back to you to ask our next question, because we just kind of touched upon some STEM career highlights. So clearly leading this group of girls that you currently work with, the Fab Femmes, I know is a group that you're a part of. So can you tell us a little bit more about some STEM career highlights, and then we can pivot to Franz and then back to Amanda.
Sure. So STEM career highlights, the program that I run here at the Intrepid called Goals for Girls, which is an acronym that stands for Greater Opportunities Advancing Leadership in Science. We do lots of opportunities for our girls and even their families to meet scientists, to meet people in the field, to meet mentors, to meet really influential people that can either increase their awareness or to provide them with really great advice and best practices. So I think being part of institutions or programs like Fab Femmes and encouraging students to find role models, to connect with mentors, to connect with each other, even as peer mentors, and surrounding yourself with friends that are supportive to you and what you want to do and be as you grow up is really, really important. And we like to make those connections here at the Intrepid Museum so that our students and their families can find stepping stones towards what can be really impactful for them towards a career in STEM. From providing programs like Franz, who runs our VC programs, to our family programs here on the ship, to even providing free teen events and programs so that so we're doing away, like Franz said, with the barriers that can provide varied opportunities for as many of our diverse audiences of New York City and beyond as possible.
That's an absolutely incredible answer. Thank you so much. So you are single-handedly educating the future innovators of the STEM career. So thank you for doing that. Now, you get to work with a hands-on group up at your Aerospace Museum in New York. Well, Franz, your audience is a little larger. So what are some STEM career highlights for you that you get to connect with people internationally? So that sounds like a pretty big gold star for you.
Yeah, it's been pretty awesome. Just connecting with different cultures and hearing how different cultures, learn different things, and the idea that we had behind our virtual field trip program, specifically for our space science program, is just the idea that space is this untangible thing, or it seems as this untangible thing, this thing that's so far away, so vast that we can't get to it. But space can be understood from any age, and there's stuff in space for all ages, and that's what we try to push. And One of the things that like I love about our virtual field trip program is that it's for everyone that enjoys it, everyone that's watching it. Teachers have told me that they've learned so much. Students have told me they learned so much. And honestly, the biggest thing, the most amazing thing that happens to me is after virtual field trips, when I get an email or a letter back from a teacher saying that one kid was inspired to become an astronaut. That to me is the purpose of this. And as Shay said, we have other groups that come in specifically to the museum that we work with, specifically families around New York City. And some families come from places like the Department of Homeless Services here in New York City. And so we have those families come in and we give them positive museum experiences here at the Intrepid, because not only with the virtual field trip, but with all of our programs, we also want to extend this idea of ownership to this artifact, this beautiful artifact that's in the Hudson River, that people in New York City and all over the world, we all own this. This is all ours for us, for our understanding of history and of science and of how history and science come together and create our future. So engaging visitors like that in different variations of different science concepts is just another way of us giving ownership back to the visitors who come here, be it in person or be it virtual.
That is such a great answer. Also, it must be the most empowering thing to feel that you are a role model for someone who could be thousands of miles away. So getting those follow-up emails, that's wonderful. I love that. Now, it's very heartwarming to get that stuff. So it makes the job more enjoyable, honestly. Oh, that's fantastic. I can't imagine. I love that. Now, Amanda, so you get to work with animals, people. I do want you to highlight the fact that you were an AZA Hero Award winner. So you got to pat yourself on the back for that one. So tell me about some STEM career highlights, because obviously international recognition is kind of a big deal.
Well, that was a big one for me. It was a video submission contest that was run by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. And they invited people that worked at institutions that were part of this AZA network to make a video and talk about why they love their jobs, what motivates them to come to work, what are the best parts of their jobs. And I made a video and I ended up being one of the 4 selected winners. So that was pretty cool. Definitely a highlight. I do spend a lot of time working with animals and doing animal care. That's a large part of my job as an aquarium biologist, and getting to breed various species, whether it be fish or invertebrates. That's a huge highlight for me. There's something about raising babies that I just absolutely love it. I love it. Can't get enough. When people come up to me and they're like, hey, I've got eggs, and I'm like, give them to me. I want to try. I want to raise them. Give me all the eggs. It's super exciting. And then I would also say one of the best things about working for Mote is that they allow me to explore some of the other interests that I have. So I've been able to work with the education department and work with Ross and do this live stream. This is a huge highlight for me every year, as well as working with our education department to do tours and talk to school groups that come in. I love bringing kids into the lab and just doing tours in general, because there's something about showing someone this tiny larval fish as opposed to just talking about it or showing a photo. I mean, there's something so amazing about showing it to them and seeing their faces light up. And these are the joys of my job. Like, take this flashlight and look at this tiny clear fish. Like, there's something about that just really, really is amazing to me and really, really makes my job as fabulous as it is. So
I mean, it's hard to beat getting to play with baby seahorses. So like,
Yeah,
I get what you're saying, but also the fact that you get to make those connections, that you are able to show and demonstrate not only how incredible your job is, how multifaceted it is, but you're able to make those connections to people that would otherwise not even be able to see a baby seahorse or those clear larval fish. And that, there you go, you just made a connection for someone who has a brand new career interest, which is fantastic. Now, additionally, we are here to celebrate Black History Month. I have some amazing African-American innovators in STEM. So I want to kind of transition into celebrating what February stands for, that we are celebrating Black History Month. So I want to be able to highlight with Amanda starting first. When you think of Black History Month, what do you think of?
I think of a special designated time to celebrate some of the accomplishments and highlight some, some Black figures that have really made incredible contributions to the world and have impacted us all in some way. So I think it's really important to take the time, and not just in February, but all year long, and take the time and really dive in and kind of look at these greater impacts that may have been overlooked by the public in the past. So I think it's super important.
And in your career field, literally dive in, right?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Great answer. All right, Franz, let's jump up to you. When you think of Black History Month, what resonates with you?
As a Black male, Black History Month gives me an opportunity to not only reflect on what people have done in the past, but reflect on where I'm going and reflect on what I do and how I'm projecting my Blackness via my career and via my profession. It's a time to just reflect on what has happened in the past. And just to think about the cool things and the amazing things that will happen in the future, and to inspire, and also to inspire and to let African Americans, young African American students and children know that they also can do amazing things. And it's like you said, it's not just for the month. It's just another reminder that people are awesome, and people do amazing things every single day, and it's just kind of pushing us and reminding us that.
Awesome, wonderful answer. So in your field, literally the sky isn't the limit, right?
Yeah, no, you can go beyond that.
Amazing. All right, Shay, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I echo Amanda and I echo Franz in the same vein of thinking, with inspiring our youth and our families and making sure that our histories and our trajectories of African Americans is clearly shown and celebrated and recognized, both the good and the bad, and the new and then the inspiring, so that we are providing our upcoming youth with additional role models that are alive and living today, that are doing great work, while also looking back and celebrating those who have created this space and the opportunities for us to continue striving monumentally from year to year, month to month, decade to decade, or even second to second, because we know it is a difficult task. We definitely don't sugarcoat making sure that equality and understanding continues to be a pivotal moment and opportunities for African Americans in all fields, not just STEM, so that they are recognized and celebrated as a people and as an asset in any community they are in.
Woo, great answer. Oh my gosh, that was fantastic. So that's a wonderful transition to the next question about what it's like in order to be an African American STEM professional. Now, I want to open that up to just as broad of a question that is, but for Shay and Amanda in particular, I'd love to hear what it's like to be a African American STEM female professional, just to see where you came from, what challenges you faced, and how did that form where you are now. So we'll start with Amanda.
Sure. For me, I think what I've realized is that representation matters. When I was growing up, I didn't know of any African American I didn't know African American scientists. I didn't know any names. And that is something that I had to really do the digging. I had to do the digging myself. And I did it as an adult. And so I think about that and how there's kids that are interested in these careers, but they don't necessarily see themselves in those careers because they don't see anyone that looks like them in those careers. So, for me, I think about that a lot. I think about representation. I think about, being a role model for other kids. And, that does kind of sometimes I think that does put some pressure on me, and sometimes I can get in my head about that and start to doubt myself. So as a Black marine biologist, I've had to overcome a fair amount of self-doubt. And feeling like I didn't belong, being seeing that there weren't others in this field that looked like me, or there weren't many. So representation matters. And honestly, being present can just be enough for someone to want to go into the field. So
that was great. Absolutely. Yes. Just being there and showing them that, look at you, rock your career. That's amazing. And that gives hope that you are a mentor, either on purpose like Shay, or just by being there for them. That's beautiful. So Shay, let's jump up to you and talk about that. Your job is to literally provide mentorship programs. So how did you get into that? And how did coming from an African-American female in STEM shape and challenge you into where you currently are?
Yeah, definitely. So growing up and wanting to, discover marine science was not something that my family or others were pushing me towards. They were like, why do you want to do that? That just seems weird. Because again, just like Amanda said, there weren't any present role models or pictures of, African-American oceanographers or marine scientists that I can see, they did this, and this is a similar trajectory that I want to take, or similar path. So I had to kind of forge ahead on my own and, kind of figure it out by being, one of the few or only African-American girls in my undergraduate class at Alfred University on the geology track. That was definitely difficult, but I do want to give props to my mom, who provided opportunities for my siblings and my family to learn about and be present in different cultures and people who might doubt you or question why you're here, so that we were comfortable in our skin before going out into the real world, so to speak, right? So we know it's difficult. It's a culture shock, especially for many African-American students, to go away at school where it's predominantly white or other cultures, and you're there trying to learn and be progressive like everyone else. But if, like Amanda said, if you don't see someone there that looks like you, that makes the battle 100 times harder to continue on. But luckily, during my undergraduate degree at Alfred University, they had a beautiful multicultural club in understanding that students of color need other students of color to help support them, as well as having my sister there, my older sister by a year. She was fantastic, go Z. She helped me also forge ahead and continue, being that one or two African-American girls in my environmental science class, to continue going. And yet again, being one of few African-American girls in my graduate class at the University of South Florida College of Marine Science, that too was difficult. But again, understanding and looking for ways to find what we say are people, to surround yourself with the culture that you're comfortable with, to help you move forward in what you want to do, and to be proud of what you want to do, and to recognize that the work you're doing is just as important. And that has helped me move that passion along to the girls in the Goals for Girls program. So helping to inspire them and to understand what their journey is, to understand what they might be feeling when they're in these classes or courses in undergraduate school. They have each other and they have myself to really help forge them along and to provide those words of wisdom, whether it's just like, go girl, you got this, or whether it's a sit down kind of phone conversation to really talk about what steps they can take to be successful.
Oh, great answer. Absolutely. So it's all about having that support system to move you forward. And now all of you are providing a support system for future STEM experts. That's wonderful. All right, Franz, let's bounce up to you. So what are some challenges that you might have faced, and how did that shape and form how you got to where you are now?
So interestingly enough, to kind of touch back on something that Amanda said, was just not being able to see the optics, right? Not being able to see a lot of African Americans in STEM growing up was something that I noticed. Growing up, actually, believe it or not, what really got me into science was Bill Nye the Science Guy. Not gonna lie.
Yes.
Love Bill Nye the Science Guy. So to watch that and just asking myself, why couldn't I do that? Why can't I tell people cool scientific, properties and principles and stuff like that? And it's, my mom and my sister also, pushed me. My sister was getting her degrees in STEM, and she pushed me, and she, kept pushing me toward college and grad school and stuff like that, and just inspired me to continue to do what I do. But I'm actually at a very interesting time period. Where when I got my job and things like that, right now museums as a whole are in this idea of diversity, you know, and pushing diversity and trying to get more diverse populations in. And I had this struggle actually a little bit on the flip side of almost the fear of being, what's the word I'm trying to use? The fear of being like the token, in all honesty, of being that Black guy who talks about science and putting him on stage so he can talk about science. So I had that, that cognitive dissonance, you know, with wanting to, you know, share my passion and love for science with the world, but then also that fear of being used as that Black guy who does the science demonstrations. I will say though, after, you know, years and years of being here, and not necessarily at this museum, but being in the museum field, I've learned that to use that to my advantage. Whenever I do programs here and there's a kid, and I always say this, the kid who looks at me and says, that guy looks like me, and he's doing a job that I never thought I could do. Because we know this here, specifically in New York, although museums are making a push to get more diverse populations in, sometimes museums as a whole are not deemed as a place for African Americans to go, or for minorities to go. So it's just basically, like Amanda said, just being that face there to let other minorities know that, you know, this is a job that you can do. You know, you might see your face, you know, in other jobs, but this is a job that you see your face in as well. So it's basically creating those optics, and also, you know, just being true to yourself, you know, like you can't hide your color, and just to be true to who you are. And that's something that's actually propelled me through my career here at the Intrepid and also other museums as well.
Oh, fantastic. What a wonderful answer. So it's also fantastic in the sense that you do virtual learning. So when there are these point-to-point connections, that not only are you just the expert, the science educator, but you're also providing that educational content by just showing who you are as an educator. So you're attacking this at two different levels, as the scientific expert and then a representational expert, which is fantastic. That's really beautiful, which I think is a perfect transition into our next question regarding stereotypes you might have faced, and then how do you think you can just move forward in general? That, Franz, you had that wonderful idea, that wonderful comment that museums are tackling diversity. So that's a great step to move forward. But what are some other suggestions you might have just from personal experience? So let's jump back to Franz, and what do you suggest?
I think highlighting people as a whole, not necessarily just like the important people, like for instance, here at the museum, we talk about our pilots, we talk about astronauts, but we also talk about individuals who worked here on the ship. And one of the stories that we tell is of Gun Tub 10, which were men who were told to man a gun tub here at Intrepid, but many of them lost their lives basically due to a kamikaze attack. So we tell that story, but then we also highlight the fact that they were African Americans, and we talk about the fact that they, you know, were treated unjustly and unfairly. And it's just the idea of not sugarcoating anything and just basically letting people know the history of everything, even if that history may not be pretty, but it's just letting people know what happened in the past and how we fixed it. So it's just basically not sugarcoating and just addressing everything that you need to address. I think that that's the perfect way to do it.
Awesome. Wonderful answer. All right, Shay, what about you? What do you think? Oh, sorry, Shay, you got muted on us somehow. So try clicking the lower left button. While you do that, we'll jump over to Amanda. So what do you think are some ways that we can all proactively move forward together?
I would say that I've had interactions with people, with guests at Mote, who have really had me thinking about stereotypes. So they were other African-American people. And when they saw that I was a staff member, they were like, whoa, like you get in the water? Like you get in with the sharks? And it just like blew their mind. Yeah. And so I kind of took heed of that and like was like, yeah, I do that. It's part of my job. Like I get to scuba dive, and kind of like encouraging them and letting them know that like there are people here, like we're here, and we are diving and we're working with sharks and we're doing all of these things that it may surprise you that we do, but it's possible. And I've had interactions with lots of kids, with lots of young African-American girls and boys that are amazed that I work with water in the first place. And they're like, I don't know how to swim. And I feel like that is something that I have encountered a lot, is talking to people that, Black people specifically, that don't know how to swim. So they don't really understand how this is a career possibility. So even talking about that, I would just say, like, if you have the opportunity to kind of, if you're interested in a career, but there may be a skill or a certificate or something that you need to get there, don't be afraid to put yourself out of your comfort zone and get that certification, get that skill, because it could put you in such a great opportunity further down the line.
Oh,
so
great answer. And not just swimming in general, but the fact that you scuba dive, that is so amazing.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. All right, Shay, let's jump up to you really quick.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both Franz and Amanda, as well as, you know, providing those opportunities and managing those connections. I think because we all have our skills, right? We all have beautiful talents. And letting a student of color understand that they can fuse their talent with a profession can also blow their mind, right? Like, for example, there are always a number of girls who, you know, really are doubtful that STEM is a career for them, but they're really interested in, for example, in cosmetics or beauty or skincare. And I highlight the fact that all of that stems from biology and chemistry. Like, there's nothing but STEM in you know, beauty products and health and skin and hair and skincare. And being able to bridge that gap of understanding can help them really see themselves in that career and that career opportunity. And I'll share a quick story with you. While I was interning as a high school student at the Brooklyn Aquarium, it was one of my jobs to help with the touch tank that they had back then. And it was a huge tank with sea stars and horseshoe crabs and sea urchins. And it was my job to, as people came up to the tank, to share with them a little bit about the STEM knowledge of that specific specimen. So rounding the corner, coming towards me to the touch tank, and at the time I had braids just like Amanda had, was a group of mostly white students, and they stopped in their tracks. They could not believe that someone like me was behind the touch tank to offer information and knowledge to them. So it took them a minute to even warm up to the fact that, you know, I was there to help inspire and learn with them and share my knowledge with them as, you know, as a person who could really be influential in their trip to the New York Aquarium, and to show them that, yes, I know things and I can help you learn together. So the idea and the surprise of people sometimes not realizing you're in a position because you are just as cool and knowledgeable as the next person, you should own that and move forward with that, and understand that your knowledge and your talents should be shared with everyone. And if that surprise comes, take it as a, yes, I'm cool like that.
Amazing. Yeah, well, that's perfect. Now, the crazy part is I am suddenly very aware that we are starting to run out of time, which blows my mind because this has been so much fun. So I want to ask one last group collective question before we start moving on to audience questions, which Shay just opened it up for the perfect transition. So sharing confidence, sharing talents, sharing knowledge. So how about you all, as kind of a closing note, share one thing that you want to impress upon future African-American STEM educators, experts, and innovators. If you could give the future one piece of advice, if you could give yourself back in elementary school one piece of advice, what would that be? So we'll start with Amanda.
Sure. I would say, I mentioned this before, but don't be afraid to do your own digging. I went to Grinnell College, which was a small college in the middle of Iowa, cornfields, cows everywhere, no water in sight. So I had to do my own digging for figuring out the field of marine science, how to enter the field, how to put my best foot forward. And I had the support of many teachers that I worked with and that mentored me through college. But I really had to do a lot of the legwork myself. I had to do a lot of my own research. I had to look up particular people that inspire me now, for example. So don't be afraid to do your own digging, and also recognize that this is a very competitive field. So when you are applying to things, or, you know, trying to get your foot in the door, like, make sure you put your best foot forward. Take that extra time to look over your applications over and over and over again. Get all those typos, get all the grammar right. And then if you have people that are able to help you, have them look over it too, because there's nothing like another set of eyes to look over something. I've looked over my own stuff 10 times, and then I hand it over to someone else and they put a fresh set of eyes on it, and they'll find something that I don't even know how I didn't see it. So put your best foot forward, and don't be afraid to do your own digging, do your own research, especially when it comes to something that you're passionate about.
Oh, fantastic answer. Thank you. All right, what about you, Franz? What advice could you impress upon future STEM experts?
I guess the advice that I would tell them is where you start isn't necessarily where you finish, but it doesn't make it any less beautiful. I started off thinking that I was going to do science, ended up getting 2 degrees in communication, which is a social science. It's not a hard science, but it's social science. You know, I didn't even know when I switched to communication that I was going to make my way back to STEM education, or make my way back to STEM. And I like to liken it to watching a raindrop fall or kind of travel down like a window pane. You want it to go straight down, but, you know, other raindrops take it other ways, but it still gets down to that bottom. Eventually it's going to get down to the bottom. So whatever you do in life, if you found yourself going down a path and then all of a sudden you completely deviate from that path, as long as, like, you have your head on straight, keep going down that path, and eventually you're going to find yourself in the right exact place that you're supposed to be. So there's no blueprint. There's no blueprint for anything. There's no specific map for anything. You kind of have to create it yourself, and let your creativity and your love for whatever you're doing cause you to create and carve out your path. That's what I would tell them.
Wow, that is a fantastic answer. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Now, all right, fantastic. So we're going to jump up to Shay really quick, and then we can open up to all those audience questions that are pouring in.
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues. I would say show initiative, take the challenge on head by its horns, but show as much initiative as possible, and set yourself up for success. Take a chance and apply to that internship. Take a chance, and apply to a volunteer job that might set you up for success. But really don't sit on your laurels and think things will come to you if you don't show the initiative and the drive for what you want to do. And surround yourself with a diverse and a great amount of supporters, your friends, your teachers, your family member, because like we said before, support is really integral towards helping you achieve success. But please show that initiative. Talk to your teachers, talk to your informal educators or your friends, because you never know who they know that can also help set you up for success.
Oh, fantastic answer. So we have Shay talking about the drive, the passion. We have Franz talking about that no matter where you end up, your path could always change, but that gets you still to your goal. And then Amanda's talking about support systems and the fact that we all should be working together. It's really fantastic. Now, I am super aware of the time, so I want to already asterisk this, that we probably won't be able to get to all the questions. So I do want to plug our Flipgrid page really quick for any questions we don't get to immediately. So Flipgrid, it's a wonderful video voicemail service where students, adults, lifelong learners in general can ask a free video question regarding anything that we've talked about today in this webinar, and that we will respond with a personalized video response. So consider Franz, Amanda, and Shay your STEM pen pals whenever you actually have any questions, and we'll do follow-up videos. We also have some downloadable worksheets, resources, internship pages that are all connected to our Flipgrid page. So please visit us on Flipgrid for any follow-up from this webinar. Now, if you have any additional questions, please start typing them into the chat now. I see that a few questions have popped up. So the first question that I see is for Amanda. So let's see, how did you get the animals that you take care of now? Where are these seahorses and gobies and invertebrates even coming from?
That's a great question, first off, so kudos. So I have several exhibits that I am primary care for. So those range from neon gobies to, I have a grass flat exhibit that has seahorses, urchins, sea cucumbers, all kinds of stuff in it. And how I get these exhibits in the first place is that every single person in my department that works in animal care has a certain number of exhibits that they are responsible for. So they're responsible for the nutrition of the animals. They're responsible for creating the display. So, you know, it's almost like interior design, but underwater. So they're responsible for how the exhibit looks, for keeping it clean, for keeping the water healthy for the fish. Or for the other animals that are inside of it. So I have several exhibits, but those do change. So I take care of these exhibits for, you know, it could be several months to a couple of years. And then every once in a while we rotate exhibits.
Awesome.
So very recently, I had 4 exhibits that moved to some of our newer aquarists. And then I took on 4 new exhibits. So you're constantly getting fresh minds onto these exhibits. And then, you know, they can change depending on who's taking care of them at the time, but it really gives you an opportunity to kind of like let those creative juices flow.
So it's kind of like that pure editing thing you just talked about. Change it up with aquarium perspectives too. Plus there's the art design perspective. So there's a STEAM component of STEM.
Yeah.
Now I see that a question just came in for Franz. So if you didn't work where you do now, what other job would you want? What other job would you do?
So if I didn't work here, I would definitely want to do something with STEM education, informal education, specifically science, space science. To be honest with you, I would love to do like my own like Bill Nye the Science Guy television show. That would be awesome too. But yeah, it honestly just be conveying messages to individuals for their knowledge and for their understanding at different levels. I don't know what it is about that specifically, being able to take a scientific concept and let a 5-year-old know how it is, and then also let someone who's grown know what it is. It really intrigues me. So it'd be probably something in that realm.
Well, I mean, that's a huge testament that even if you weren't working where you are now, you'd still want to be in the same vein. So
yeah, definitely.
That's a wonderful answer. Now I see that we have a question coming in for Shay as well. So for Shay, we have, if as an African-American, was it hard to get to where you are now? So that you're a geomorphologist, now you're a mentor educator, so you've been all over the place. Has that been?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely challenging and hard. You know, there are moments, especially in graduate school, where, you know, as a graduate student, you're working sometimes in silos and kind of on your own work. And doing your thesis and your research, like Amanda was saying. So that is hard, and trying to find someone who can work through it with you. So I would say, just like I tell my goals girls and the students that I work with, is to find your institutions or your colleges or your school's counseling center, so that you have someone, you know, you can talk to about some of the hardships, because there are days when you will cry and say, oh my gosh, this is so hard. How can I continue? Or, you know, that professor, you know, really said something untoward to me, and what does that mean? And should I go back to that class? So yes, definitely it is hard, but finding a really supportive counseling system at your school or your university, or just a great friend who you can just talk to and he or she or they can listen, then that was really helpful in helping me move forward in what I wanted to do, and finding the place that is deserving of someone who works really hard and knows what they want to do.
Oh, that's amazing. What a great answer. So once again, it's all about that support system. Now, I am aware that we have about 40 seconds left. So I want to pass it over to Amanda really quick to highlight some of the amazing African Americans that have paved the way to where you folks are now.
All right. Well, so first off, I just wanted to briefly talk about Dr. Roger Arlen Young. So she was actually the first Black woman to get a PhD in zoology. And she spent the majority of her career studying sea urchin eggs and studying the effects of radiation and the indirect effects of radiation on sea urchin development.
Amazing. All right, next up we have
Dr. D Hannah Figueroa, and she is a deep sea oceanographer, and she has spent the majority of her career doing deep sea science, as well as really influencing the creation of lots of instruments to further study deep sea oceanography.
And last but not least.
Sure, Dr. Ashanti Johnson.
Yay!
Yay! She's an American geochemist and a chemical oceanographer, and she has made some really incredible contributions to that field.
Fantastic. Well, I want to again thank all three of you for joining us here today. This was so inspirational. Oh my goodness. I've learned so much. Our audiences have learned so much. You have provided such a future for future STEM experts. So literally from the sea to space, we can't thank you enough. And for everyone out there, part of CILC's Spring into Digital Learning Festival, thank you so much for joining us here today. Let's sign off and have everyone say goodbye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in.
Wonderful.
Bye, everyone. And shout out to all the people who I did virtual field trip. I think there's a couple of teachers in there that I did virtual field trips with in the past. So shout out to you guys. Thank you guys so much for coming and watching.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Fantastic. And make sure you join us again on Flipgrid. So coming to you live from Mote Marine Laboratory, thank you for tuning in for today's program.
For those of you who are staying on track 2, coming up next, we have Dancing Along the River Niger with Born to Move movement adventures, and that'll be coming up next. Stay tuned.